Good day, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over a Baba Lysaga deck idea I have kicking around. Baba wants to be hospitable, but her asking price for that hospitality is up to 3 of your permanents in exchange. So what are we getting for such a steep price? It doesn't look like she's running a Hilton resort back there, but more like the D&D equivalent of a seedy motel. Baba Lysaga Night Witch is a 3/3 legendary creature human warlock for a colorless, a black, and a green. It says tap, sacrifice up to 3 permanents. If there were 3 or more card types among the sacrificed permanents, each opponent loses 3 life, you gain 3 life, and you draw 3 cards. You'll note it says up to 3 sacrifices are needed. If your sacrifices have 2 or more types, you'll need less to get the effect, such as sacrificing an artifact creature or an enchantment creature. At that point, you'll have met an artifact and a creature type, and you'll need 1 more type to get her effect, whether that's a land, an enchantment, or a planeswalker. So how do we satisfy this witch before she tries to eat us? In the first set we have Old Rutstein, Skullport Merchant, Jewel Thief, Prosperous Innkeeper, Guillaume Master Chef, Savvy Hunter, Gluttonous Troll, and Gilded Goose. With creatures like the Skullport Merchant, the Jewel Thief, the Prosperous Innkeeper, the Gluttonous Troll, and the Gilded Goose, when they come into play, they also generate artifacts for you to throw into the sacrifice effect for Baba Lysaga. Old Rutstein and Guillaume have trigger effects that happen, Rutstein during the upkeep and Guillaume at end of turn. Once you meet their requirements, you get an artifact token off of them as well. So that's a good way to just keep generating extra resources and multiple types for you to throw into Baba Lysaga's oven. The next set is Killer Service, Esseka's Chariot, Fists of Ironwood, Ranger Class, Squirrel Sanctuary, and Ruthless Technomancer. Killer Service is very similar to the last set of cards. Enchantment, it comes into play and it makes treasure tokens. Esseka's Chariot is an artifact that creates creature tokens, but you can also use the ability of the Chariot to copy some of your other tokens as well. Fists of Ironwood is an aura that generates 2 creatures, so it gives you an enchantment to throw into this, as well as a creature. Ranger Class, enchantment and creature. Squirrel Sanctuary, enchantment and creature. And then Ruthless Technomancer can create artifacts for you to deal with as well. The last set in this category I have is Sarcomancy, Tribute to Hirobi, Animate Dead, Dance of the Dead, and Necromancy. Sarcomancy is in a similar vein as the last set of cards. You play an enchantment, you get a creature. Tribute to Hirobi is kind of similar, but you don't get the creatures until it flips over and turns into the other side of the card. Then you get the creatures back that you can use. Also, the creature flip side of Tribute to Hirobi, if you sacrifice it to Baba Lysaga, you get an enchantment and a creature type to throw in towards her 3 permanent ability. With Animate Dead, Dance of the Dead, and Necromancy, you can get 2 types, but it requires you to actually have a target in your graveyard to resurrect, as these enchantments resurrect creatures from your graveyard. So if you bring back something from the graveyard with one of these as an enchantment, then you can have 2 things, the enchantment and the creature, to sacrifice back into her as well. And the ultimate package would be something like Jewel Thief or Skullport Merchant being in your graveyard. You animate one of those, and all of a sudden you have 3 types because you're going to get an artifact token off of one of those, plus the creature itself and the enchantment, and then you just throw all 3 into the Lysaga and let it rip. So with all the stuff that we're going to be feeding Baba, let's see what we have here to generate some additional advantage from doing that, even if we're not getting the 3 required types to sacrifice to her. Let's start with Marionette Master, Disciple of the Vault, Blood Artist, Zilliport Cutthroat, and Bastion of Remembrance. Remember, this witch is really hungry and she's eating away at our permanents, so we really got to come up with some other ways to get some benefit here, even if it's just this incremental damage for every artifact or creature we need to feed to her. With Marionette Master, Disciple of the Vault, every artifact token, whether it's blood, treasure, or food tokens, is going to hit our opponents for whatever the power of the Marionette Master is. Marionette Master also has the opportunity to create servos, but you really don't want to do that. You're not going to really sacrifice her. What you're going to do is make her, a 4-power creature to start off with, and every time you sacrifice one of those, it's an additional 4 damage to somebody. With Blood Artist, Dualport, Cutthroat, and Bastion of Remembrance, same thing, but whenever you sacrifice the creatures, you're going to get a ping here and there. Bastion also has the benefit of creating another token to feed to Baba later. The next set of cards benefit from all these sacrifices happening. Let's start with Ravenous Squirrel, Prowling Geistcatcher, Tombstone Stairwell, Mazric, Crawl Death Priest, Vito, Thorn of the Dusk Rose, and Erebos Bleakhearted. Ravenous Squirrel is going to become huge, because every time you activate Baba and if you sacrifice 3 things, it's going to give it 3 counters right off the bat. Prowling Geistcatcher will get bigger for every token you use as a sacrifice, so make sure you're feeding artifact tokens and creature tokens to her as part of the activations if the Geistcatcher is around. Tombstone Stairwell gives you creature tokens to sacrifice every turn as long as you have a few in your own graveyard. Mazric, the Crawl Death Priest, every time you sacrifice something, it puts a +1/+1 counter on all the surviving creatures. So if you sacrifice 3 permanents to Baba, that's 3 counters going on all your stuff. So your things are going to get really big really fast if you plan it out just right. Vito, Thorn of the Dusk Rose, will double up the damage dealt per activation of Baba because you also gain 3 life, so you're going to make your opponents lose 3 life as well. And Erebos will net you an additional card for each creature that you feed to Baba. So you sacrifice the creature, you pay the 2 life off of his trigger once her activation resolves, but you're still going to net 1 life because you gain 3 life as part of that activation, and you're going to get an extra card out of it. The last couple of cards in this category, we have Pitiless Plunderer and Bramble Sovereign. The last 2 don't really have any kind of direct benefit of sacrifices so much, but they actually interact well with the cards that I've suggested here. Pitiless Plunderer will net you a treasure every time you feed a creature to Baba Lysaga. And the Bramble Sovereign, which is actually getting a reprint in Battle for Baldur's Gate, will allow you to clone some of the things as you go along. I heard, a couple Marionette Masters or a couple of Blood Artists on the board are pretty good. In this last category of cards, we have to kind of recover our resources as we go along here, because we've been feeding all this fodder to Baba to take advantage, but you can't keep doing that forever unless you have a way to get some of it back from the grave. First up, we have Ancient Green Warden, Crucible of Worlds, Ramanap Excavator, Gaia's Will, Magus of the Will, and Yawgmoth's Agenda. The cards listed here will allow you to play lands back from your graveyard, especially the first 3. The last 3 will also allow you to play lands from your graveyard, but they're a little more limited in their scope. The 2 wills, you can only do it on the turn that they go off, and once your turn's over with, you can't do it anymore. And Yawgmoth's Agenda limits your spell casting to 1 per turn. Next, we have our classic Get Stuff Back category, is what I like to call it. We have Eternal Witness, Timeless Witness, Omen of the Dead, Fungal Rebirth, Gloomshrieker, Golgari Finebroker, Nature Spiral, and Planewide Celebration. With several of these cards, you have Eternal Witness, Timeless Witness, Omen of the Dead, Gloomshrieker, and Golgari Finebroker as permanents that come into play. Retrieve your other things from the graveyard, and then you can go ahead and feed them to Baba because they've already served their purpose. We also have a couple of cards that get back permanents from your graveyard just by casting them outright, with Fungal Rebirth and Nature Spiral and Planewide Celebration, which Planewide Celebration can actually get up to 4 permanents back from our graveyard if you pick the retrieval mode 4 times off of it. And once you have your things back, then you just feed them to Baba all over again and keep going. We also have a few more cards left here. In the same Get Stuff Back category, we have Springleaf Avenger and Verdant Confluence. Both of these cards can retrieve things from your graveyard. Springleaf Avenger has to deal combat damage. Verdant Confluence, you can just pick the retrieval mode off of it 3 times and get back 3 permanents. And then the last card we have, doesn't really have a category here, but it's a recycling thing anyways, is Tenacious Underdog from the new Capenna set. Tenacious Underdog has its blitz cost of being able to play it back from the graveyard by paying a couple of life and 4 mana. Well, if you bring it back and blitz it out, you don't really have to attack with it. All you have to do is blitz it out, feed it to Baba along with 2 other things, and then she's going to deal 3 damage, and you're going to gain 3 life, and you're going to draw 3 cards plus another card from the blitz of the underdog. And you can keep doing that over and over again because you're going to net 1 life as long as you're doing 3 permanent types per activation of Baba Lysaga. So what do you think? Do you think she's going to be a fun witch to play with? Anything you can think of that would play well with Baba Lysaga? Leave your thoughts below, and as always, your likes, shares, and subscribes are highly appreciated. And thank you for watching. Have a great day.